Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another chat alongside everyone's favourite connected one, everyone's favourite 9321, Mr. Ahsan. Good morning, my friend. How are you doing today? You all right?
Morning, Steve. Yeah, man. Very good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm good. Busy like yourself this morning. Just so much going on a Monday morning already in the world. But busy's good, isn't it? Busy's good.
Busy is
It's better
always
than
good.
doing absolutely nothing. Loads to talk about today, man. Absolutely loads to talk about. Before I do that, though, I want to say to everyone, don't forget, if you haven't already checked out 9320, what are you doing? In the link in the description below and all that kind of stuff, 9320,
That's
they've
the
been busy
pod.
this morning recording their reaction to the Newcastle game. There's always loads of content for the likes of Ahsan, Steve Tudor, Lloyd, Stefan, Howard, Joe. Absolutely loads of people are over there. So go and check out the 9320 pod because it's absolutely wonderful. But it's going to get even more wonderful, hopefully, over this summer because there's going to be loads and loads to talk about. As well over the next couple of weeks, Manchester City in particular as well. We've got Champions League final coming up. Good morning to the extra in the chat there. Good morning to Jordan.
Morning,
I
lads.
think it'll probably be Jordan. Morning, good to see you all there. There's loads coming up, man. Absolute loads coming up. And today we're gonna touch on Newcastle a little bit. We're gonna touch on the Champions League final and Chelsea, and then of course the stuff that everyone's here for, man. Everyone wants transfers. Everyone wants transfers, and I'm gonna go with what Jimmy just said. Jimmy, you're a legend. Everyone like the stream right now. Do that. What
Like
Jimmy
it
said.
now. Jimmy's right.
Jimmy's always right. Jimmy 5 chins, man. Every single one of those chins is absolutely spot on.
That's the right way to do it.
So hit the like button, guys. Hit the like button, guys. Ahsan, before we get on to transfers, which I know you're gagging to talk about, let's talk about the Newcastle game a little bit because it's definitely worth touching on that. Firstly, what did that Newcastle game mean to you? Because I know that's it's quite an open question, but I've left it that way purposely because it was a weird game of football. Like, what were you expecting from that game, and how did you feel after that game of football?
Going into it, I expected more or less what we got, which was like a chaotic, chaos ball. Adam Keyworth, shout out Adam.
Yeah.
Total chaos ball. It was mad. I mean, for me, there's only one real talking point from that game, and that is Ferran Torres as a number 9, and just that performance. His performances in the autumn. Pep said it after the game. They're going to have to start looking at him like that. I think I'm going to say it bluntly. I think he's probably better as a 9 than he is as a right winger. I think he's, for me, he brings something that peak Aguero used to bring, which is that, he wants to run in behind all the time, and he's constantly looking at the centre backs and moving them around and play that cliche of playing on the shoulder of the last defender. Yeah, and making them think and making them guess. He does that really well. And then first you have to have all the movement and all the intelligence to do all those things. Then you have to be a predator in the box, and he's quite clearly a predator in the box.
Yeah, definitely.
So for me,
do you think he's genuinely got a chance now? Do you think he's genuinely got a chance of being an option as a striker? I mean, Guardiola was absolutely effusive afterwards. He was really, really positive. He was like bouncing from the walls, man. Guardiola. He was so happy with
a performance like that.
No, I mean, yeah, exactly. Does it? Because obviously, what people will say is like, oh, it's a dead rubber. And is he gonna, does he change anything? Because obviously, we're going for strikers, which we'll get into in a bit. But Guardiola loves a project, doesn't he? And is this not the most perfect potential project for him? Is it fair to say as well, Ferran Torres' striking performances now are better than they were at the start of the season because he's played it a little bit longer now?
Yes, I think so. I don't want to say better than the start of the season because I actually think that I was blown away by his movement and his intelligence playing the 9 when Aguero and Jesus were out in the autumn. I felt it then. People who listen to 9320 pod will know that back then I was going, he reminds me a lot of David Villa. That's what he's got. He's got he's got that. He's a predator. He's got the ability to finish, and he can run in behind, and he's quick, and his movement will kill you. So I felt back then that he had it in him to play as a 9. I think the difference that it makes for me, I don't think you can ignore what happened on Friday. I think Guardiola's reaction speaks volumes. I think that speaks to a guy going, holy crap, like he's really, really good playing that position. And not to, like I've just said on our pod, not to slag another player off, but just to make the contrast and the comparison.
Yeah.
You look at Gabby, right, and you look at Ferran, you go, okay, I'd play Ferran before I play Gabby as a 9. Yeah. So that almost means that Ferran and Gabby have to swap positions now. Gabby's now a right winger, a backup right winger, and Ferran Torres is the guy who's going to play centrally and through the middle. If we're not doing the false 9 things. So, you know, I think it was a great. It was nice to have all of these games, what you would consider Premier League dead rubbers since we've won the league. My feeling has been, I hope from each game we can take one thing, either for the Champions League final or for next season. And I think Torres' performance gives us both a perspective for the Champions League final in terms of going, well, if he starts on the bench, which you would assume that he will do, he looks like a player who can make an impact. He looks like a player, if you're chasing a goal and you're throwing everything into the box, he's the type of guy who might just nick you that goal. And then pushing forward into next season, I think it's even more interesting because I actually believe that I know I'm 99% certain we're going to sign a big number 9 this summer. Once we've signed that big number 9, who will expect to play regularly, if you then begin to see Ferran Torres as a 9 option, which is as capable as a wide option, then maybe somebody else is expendable in the squad. Maybe suddenly you find yourself in a position where you've got, you know, it gives you options. I think that this summer in the transfer market, and we'll get to it a little bit later, this summer in the transfer market is going to be a movable feast. It's going to be about who do we have offers for, who wants to leave, and who do we want to let go of. And on the flip, who can we bring in? What positions are they in? Because even the idea that all the names that we've talked about are obvious for City, I think there could be a left field thing. I think that there really could be a Bernardo Silva, for want of a better word, because Bernardo was a guy who basically disappeared. Bernardo was a guy who we had no real links to him when we signed him, and that signing literally came out of nowhere. So I wonder whether there isn't another left field signing this summer that we end up doing. I believe that Stephen has disappeared, and now I have no idea if I am live in this chat alone. So you'll all have to bear with me while I try and locate. Oh, here he comes. Hey, he's back again.
Internet just went. The whole internet. So now it's tethering. So no idea what happened there.
I feel basically what I was saying was that. Yeah, what I was saying is that you remember when we signed Bernardo Silva, came massively out of left. I think this summer people should be ready for some at left field, because I think that this summer's market will be a little bit of a movable feast, and it will depend a little bit upon who we get offers for. You see what I mean? That we could well find ourselves in a position where a great offer comes in for a player, and Pep goes, well, you know what? He's third choice now, so that's all right. He can go. And actually, I move him to that position, and then I can go and buy that guy. So I think that we've got the priority in the very narrow. We need to get a number 9 in. But after that, I think a lot will depend upon just who we get offers for, how the season ends for certain players, and what certain players want for their own future.
100%. I mean, I'll be honest, I totally lost the train of that conversation because my internet disappeared hugely. So my head just disconnected from the conversation entirely because the internet disconnected. But yeah, well, to go back to what you're saying, broadly speaking, I do agree Torres becomes an option as a striker now. And I do agree. And I'm going to just go back to, I guess, the start of this Torres conversation, simply because I feel like we need to talk about the quality of the goals a little bit more anyway, because that first goal, it feels like the world's moved on from that goal already, unfairly, because that first goal, if Thierry Henry scores that, if Mo Salah scores that, if Sergio Aguero scores that, if anyone else scores that, I feel like the world's talking about it for an awful long time. point, genuinely. But obviously, because the circumstance, it's a dead rubber game. No one cares about. Barely anyone was watching the TV, and Ferran Torres scores it. It's like, I swear you see goals like that up on the Puskas Award. I swear you actually do see goals like that up for that kind of competition.
Of course you
do. And like, it's almost like the internet's like, oh yeah, that was cool. And an hour later, no one cares anymore. Like, what the fuck? Like, why are we, this
Shall
moment of genuine... Go on.
Because he didn't cost £80 million. If he'd have cost £80 million, that'd still be the front page right now. And everybody would be going, the boy has arrived. He's landed.
Yes.
Yeah. But because he didn't cost a lot, because he's like a lot of our top players, low key, because he's not a guy who courts headlines, because he's not he's not trying to market himself in that way. You don't get those headlines. But you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I talked about it on our pod. Like, I asked the question, I'll ask it of you as well. Like, actually, what's more impressive, the skill to be able, or the audacious?
Mate, it's for me, it's breaking up a little bit, but it's absolutely both. I mean, like, it's the skill's incredible, but it's the audacity, because only certain kind of players try that anyway in the first place. You don't try it unless you're absolutely confident of your ability to pull that off, and that requires a certain level of confidence, conviction, and self-belief, man. Like, I do think Ferran Torres is a really interesting character, because I'm not trying to analyze the kid, and I don't know him personally, whatever, but there's a few little tells to me that suggest that his confidence is there, but it's very much... I think he's very human with his own confidence as well. The way he cried after the goal against Crystal Palace, and me, was quite indicative of someone who's probably had maybe a tougher time than we realise. And he's definitely kind of like painted this picture of himself as super confident, super, like, he loves Cristiano Ronaldo. He loves that whole like I am the man kind of thing, which I definitely think he believes he is. But I think he's a lot more human than he realises, and I actually like that humble side to it. I think it hinted at that for me, that he's realised he struggled. And I think that's why he was so delighted to score against Palace, and then delighted to score these 3 goals. I like that actually he's got, and I feel like he's got a high standards for himself as well. So maybe that's where some of his frustration has been when he scored and he cried. And I think that human side to him that he showed briefly, to me, was one of the most important things I've seen from Ferran Torres. I know it sounds weird to focus on a post-goal moment, but it just shows something in his head that he knows he hasn't been quite there, and that he's shows that he's not happy with his current levels of form, and it shows that he feels he's got so much more to give, and shows that he wants to give more. So I feel like we've only really scratched the surface of what Ferran Torres could be at Manchester City, and I think we've seen signs of immense ability, and also seen through his own shows of emotion that he's not happy with what he's currently doing, and he wants to be better, and he gives himself the highest goals to aim towards. And I'm really confident that he's going to surprise an awful lot of people next season. He's a wonder boy, man. He's a really, really talented kid. Scored a hat-trick against Germany, for crying out loud, for Spain. You don't do that unless you're exceptionally gifted. Quickly, by the way, what I just go to Super Chat. It's not related to anything, but Big Johnny, I can't ignore it, mate. He says, I definitely take Danny Ings on a free. He isn't the flashiest name, but he can do a job, and he's moldable, like Milner at Liverpool. For one, mate, he wouldn't actually be on a free because his contract's next season. Is that right? I think. I don't think his contract's running out this year, is it? Yeah, no, so unfortunately, mate, I mean, if it came to that, man, and people signed him on a free somehow, if that was possible, I'm sure a lot of people would be like, yeah, all right, whatever. But I don't think that's possible, mate. But big love for the Super Chat anyway. But yeah, I'm not against the idea and theory of the right player on a free transfer if it came to it. But unfortunately, this is not that case, mate, unfortunately. But back to the game, man. Basically, by the way, I need to say, like, the internet for whatever reason, hyperoptics cut out, and I'm tethering on my phone now. So if it goes a bit sketchy, I apologize, everyone. What a morning I've had. I've had a wild morning today. So many things going wrong. Back to the game, man. What did you make of Guardiola's energy after the game as well? Was that just a man who's had a few too many slices of pizza, or was he, or was he just like, do you think that was enthusiasm because he won the league or because of the game or what? Because he seemed in a really good place after the game, didn't he?
I think he will have been impressed with the character of the side to concede the goals in the manner in which we've conceded them, and then to come back every time and to find a way to win the game. I think if you're like Pep and you've got a winning mentality like Pep, even a game after the league is won, if he'd have lost that game 3-2, I don't think that Pep would have been in the best of moods, and I don't think that you'd have seen
I agree.
The spring in his step that he had. And I think that winning and losing will do that. And you just can't underestimate what Ferran's performance in that moment will have given Guardiola. I think with one eye on the Champions League final, all of these games, Torres, Jesus, Aguero, Sterling, this is about Guardiola going, I'm going to give you every chance to show me that you can give me something in the Champions League final. And people will focus on others. I'm going to focus on Ferran for the Newcastle game and go, he's done it. He's now shown, you know what, Pep? We're 1-0 down with 10 minutes to go and you need to throw another attacker on. Put me on because I can score goals. I can score mad goals. And it's huge. It's really, really, really huge.
Well, it's the most important thing in football, scoring goals. And you've got a guy who has the ability, audacity to flick it in over someone's head with his back heel. Like it shows that it shows a level of self-belief that's important in football. It literally is the currency in football goals. And I agree that Ferran Torres is now. I mean, I can imagine if you look at it as some kind of like hypothetical list and pecking order in terms of first choice subs off the bench, and you've got a collection of players looking for a goal that will be vying with each other. The likes of obviously Jesus, Sterling, Ferran, maybe even Sergio as well. Performances like that against Newcastle, they move you up that list, don't they, man? And if he's not first choice, he's almost definitely second choice at the moment. And he's earned that. He's absolutely earned that, man. He's earned that. One person, or I guess one team that didn't earn a little bit of credit over the weekend. I want to talk about Chelsea. That was, by the way, did you watch the FA Cup final?
I did.
Did you catch it?
I did.
What I firstly want to say, the spectacle of it, just seeing fans back in the stadium, man. I know it's just this is just kind of platitudes and all that kind of stuff, but it was nice to see a little bit of human interaction and nice to see the fans going in. And to be honest, man, I find myself sat there feeling a little bit emotional watching that because I got goosebumps watching Leicester lift the trophy, and I think it was the collective energy around it all. With the fans, with the light. I think Gary Lineker actually was really good in the commentary. Actually, he was like he felt he's speaking from the heart, and I think it was nice just to hear fans just talking for once. And Gary Lineker sounded like a fan. He sounded like he was on his own fan channel or podcast talking about his experiences with his dad as well. And the occasion was good, wasn't it, man? And obviously, collective dancing with a finger on his head, and I was happy for Leicester. But Chelsea, what did you make of Chelsea at the weekend?
Not great. I thought they were, they lack creativity. They lack a goal scorer. They're defensively solid, but they can still be got at. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that if I was looking at it from Chelsea's point of view, the thing that would worry me is it feels like they had a new manager bounce and that there is a little bit of a returning to the mean, if that makes sense, in terms of performances. So if I were them, that would slightly concern me. I think the other thing that would slightly concern me is that the FA Cup final is a big occasion and there were supporters back in the ground. It didn't feel like Chelsea had... they didn't strike me as a team that were desperate to win it in the way that Leicester were desperate to win it. And that's not good in a cup final. I think no matter where you are, no matter how big or small you are as a club or as a team, no matter how talented you are as a player, when you get to a cup final at Wembley, you've got to be up for it. And if you're not up for it, then there's something not quite right. So yeah, I mean, that was my feeling with Chelsea. I have to be honest though, I'm not as enamored by the romance of Leicester's win as the rest of the world seems obsessed with. Like, the way people talk, you'd assume that they play in the third division and they were a team built on 12 pence. Like, that's just not the case. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? They spend
I 100% get that. I get that.
They've bought loads of players that, I don't really know. I personally, for me, I enjoyed it as a spectacle, but I wasn't massively invested in Leicester winning it. And to be honest, in the build-up, all of the romance of Leicester just properly rubbed me up the wrong way. It's just I have a little bit of a hangover from post ESL. A lot of very naive people holding up Leicester and going, that's the way that they're top owners. That's the sign of the type of owner that you want, an owner that's like not a state, but not a human rights abuser, but not a hedge fund billionaire either. It's like, you know what? Like, you probably should scratch the surface a little bit, dig a little bit deeper, know what you're talking about before you get involved in being all plucky little Leicester dead romantic. It's not like that.
No, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. As ever, there's things that never quite what they seem. Someone has to be a good guy, someone has to be the bad guy, and apparently we're the bad guy and they're the good guys, and it's never that simple. We all know it isn't. On a personal level, for me, I just enjoyed the game, man. I enjoyed the fans.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the energy. I slightly enjoyed the VAR. I think it's because it's anti-Chelsea, even though I thought it was kind of nonsense. I mean, I just enjoyed watching people care about football.
What
again,
a goal!
In person.
What a goal!
And what a goal, man! What a goal! What a save from Schmeichel. The elements were absolute wonder strike. And to be honest, it isn't a fairy tale. I actually agree. I mean, they've spent, as MCFC TJ just said, these are MCFC TJ's views. And Joe, I said, thank you, Ahsan. Leicester being a fairy tale is a bit strange. Spent 500 million in the last decade, owned by a Thai company, very similar to City, but doesn't get the same media coverage. It's you know what?
Exactly.
You're not
exactly, bro.
What I will say is,
I'm
I'm happy for any Leicester fans who enjoyed that moment. And to be honest, I just enjoyed the FA Cup final as a football game. That for me was it. And it felt like a cup final to me, and I enjoyed that. And personally, after the year we've all been through, I just like hearing the boos and the whistles and the jeers and the cheers and the tension, and it's palpable. And I'm sorry, no amount of crowd noises from FIFA panned in the background can create that tension, that apprehension, and watching people bite their nails in the crowd. It's just drama. It's pure fucking Hollywood, and I love that personally. And I was happy for Kelechi as well, going full on Niger with a trophy on his head. I absolutely loved that. It's just a big mood. I absolutely loved it. And also, what I will say, by the way, and I agree with you about reverting to the norm and with Chelsea. And I do feel like we know what Chelsea are. And I think we know what Chelsea are entirely. And I'm going back to the Super Chat, Sadie. Don't worry, I did miss them, but I'm going back to them because they're transfer related. But with Chelsea, we know what they are. They're an organised team, not particularly flamboyant going forward, pretty good defensively. And I think, and I don't want to try and sound too reductive, but I do think we should not fear Chelsea in the sense that we know we're a better side than them. And obviously they can beat us. Of course they can beat us. You know, anyone can beat anyone. Leicester could even beat us if it got to a final. But what I'm saying is that I haven't got this inherent fear of Chelsea. I just can't pretend to have. You know, I think they're a good side, but if we want it more than Chelsea on the day, and it's such a cliche, we will win it. And I feel that confident about it. You know, like unless some crazy bad luck happens, but if we play to our best and we want it more, I'm 99.9% certain we're going to win the final. And that's how I feel personally. There's caveats there always, but I think we're a very good side, and I think we're a better side than Chelsea. And that's my personal take on it. And I don't think I'm oversimplifying it there. I think we're going to want this, man. I think we're going to see a big Man City side. But we'll see, won't we? We'll see, man. We'll see. We're not going to know until we get there. There's a few super chats. I'm going to get through to them because it's transfer time, Ahsan. It's transfer time, mate. Let's get into the transfer world. Yes, we're getting there. Cameron saying Grealish this summer and Haaland, Bissouma next summer. A quick reaction to that, man. Would you take that if that was our transfer window?
What? No number 9 this summer?
There's a big shout from Cameron.
Sorry, Cameron. Sorry, Cameron. Next. I can't be involved in a conversation where there isn't a number 9, a new number 9 that joins the club this summer.
Maybe Cameron's on the Delap and Torres hype train. Cameron, either way, man. I love you, mate, but I'm with Ahsan on this, unfortunately. Number 9 to me has to be. If anything, mate, it'd be Haaland Bissouma this summer, Grealish the summer after it, or something like that. It'd be that way around for me if we're going to do that, mate. Cameron, thank you so much, though, mate. Addy saying, thoughts on Joao Felix, Pep will turn in world class. What's your thoughts on Joao Felix as a player, mate? I know we've chatted about him before, but it'd be good to get your feeling right now about it.
Love him as a footballer. Very, very, very talented. Probably not a player that City are going to sign at any point in the next few years, simply because he cost Atleti 100 and something million euros, so he would cost City even more than that. And the final point, whether they're doing this because they're playing a game or not, everybody that I've spoken to that has got any connection to Pep Guardiola has said to me categorically, now Pep doesn't want a false 9 this summer. Pep wants a traditional number 9. And that word traditional has been used specifically every single time. So every time I've asked that question, what I get told is Guardiola would like a traditional number 9. Look,
I'm with you on this, mate. And to be honest, Phil Foden now scores more goals as a false 9 than Joao Felix does anyway. But that's actually true. I mean, Felix has scored 7 goals. So I don't know how many Foden scored in the Premier League, but I'm guaranteed it's more than 7. Let me just make sure. I hope I'm right with this.
Phil Foden's a better footballer than Felix. Phil Foden's a better footballer than Felix for me.
I would probably agree. Either way, you can dribble just as well as Felix. He's just as aggressive. He's one of our own. And if we're gonna, we just don't need a false nine, mate. Put it this way: if Joao Felix rocked up Man City tomorrow, I wouldn't be complaining. I'd be like, quality. We've got another great footballer. But we just don't need him, mate. For me, Addy. I know he's a great player, but I think we need a striker, man. We need a striker, not a guy who wants to just drop a little bit back. And we've got Bernardo, De Bruyne, Sterling, Torres, all these people. You know, obviously Foden as well. We've got plenty of people who can play false nine, can't we?
Yeah, but there's one. There's one you'd take.
Does it? There's
one you'd take.
Yes,
he's available on a free in roughly.
It's a little bit old, but still pretty good.
34-ish days, 40 days time. He'll be out of contract. Yeah, he's the only false nine that I can see the club moving for this summer.
What? So, do you think Messi's really going to happen? It's not going to happen, though, is it, Messi? Is that train left the station now? Is it, or is it still? Is it? You know, is Messi still an option? Is it still a thing? Do you think City would still go in for him?
I think you'd have to be quite. I don't think it'd be wise to try and predict what Leo's going to do next. I think it'd be. I think the smart thing to do is just to stay quiet and be really chilled and let it play out in Barcelona the way that it is currently playing out. And, you know, the thing that you got to ask yourself is we're now not, so we're what, 37 days? No, 43 days from him being available on a free, right? And he's not signing a contract. And nothing has happened. And Barcelona don't look any closer to the financial injection that they require. Now, maybe behind the scenes, they're getting closer, but certainly right now, you don't get the impression that they have secured the loans that they need to kind of build on something. So I don't know. It's a weird one, and I don't like to I don't like to guess when it comes to Leo, because I think that it's not a wise thing to do. The only thing that I would say is I look at it from City's point of view and I go, one thing that City lack is a natural goal scorer, whether you want to call that a traditional number 9 or you just want to call it somebody who's clinical, somebody who brings that X factor, or however you want to describe it. A little bit, we miss that. And I think that Leo could provide that. He's obviously a lot older than Haaland and Kane. He obviously is not a traditional number 9, but he is Lionel Messi. So it's one of them. It's not. The thing is, go on.
No, I was going to say, it's like it felt for a while that he'd gone quiet on the Messi front because Barcelona started winning games. You know, they were in a decent run of form, and we were seeing like photos of him selling and celebrating with like you know, their young talents that they got coming through, like Ansu Fati and so on. But they've had a pretty poor run of form again, from what I can tell. Obviously now in the Liga, they're third, and they're not going to win the Liga. I don't think they can anymore. No, they can't. They're 7 points behind with one game less. It's going to be Atletico or Real. And the results, I mean, they lost to Granada a couple of weeks back, 2-1. Then they beat Valencia, but then they've drawn with Atletico. They drawn with Levante. They lost to Celta Vigo. Their form has dropped off a little bit. And like, what I guess I'm getting at is the mood in football can shift so quickly. And for I think for maybe for 3 months, Leo just enjoyed his football a little bit. But then I guess the question realization is, once again, Barca aren't going to win any major trophies, you know. And maybe he's like you can get distracted by football, but at the end of the day, he's in the exact same position he was a year ago. Barca are still bang average, really, by their own high standards. They haven't got the financial injection coming in, and I know they've got a new chairman, whatever, but he's not going to be able to solve anything, man. So like, I wonder if he's had his fingers in his ears for a couple of months playing some nice football, but then even the past 3 weeks as a start reminder where Barca are currently at. So for what it's worth, Messi has been brilliant this season yet again. He's been absolutely immense for them. He's scoring goals and goals and goals, and I would still take him personally, and because once again, he's a false 9, but he's also a 9. He's everything he wants to be, Messi, isn't he, going forward? He's a goal scorer. So I think it's one to keep an eye on, is what I will say. I mean, and personally, if he comes, I ain't complaining, man. He's Lionel Messi, and Lionel Messi can do whatever Lionel Messi wants to. That's the way I see it, in my personal opinion. By the way, Liso agreed with you earlier, by the way. Lisa Matwana said they romanticize the Leicester victory because they aren't a huge threat to the established clubs. You'll see the toxicity once they start being consistent.
Absolutely.
Lightly very true, man. Lightly very, very true.
Give it a year. If they're in the top 4 again, next year, you're going to begin to see some different types of exposés around Leicester, I would imagine.
I agree.
You're only allowed to do that sort of stuff once. Just to go back to the Messi thing very quickly, I think one of the smart things that both Leo did and certainly City have done is they've sucked all the oxygen out of the conversation. They did it way back when, like, they removed all the oxygen from the conversation, and they've not allowed it to breathe again. And if anything, you look at the stories around Paris and the contract that he's supposedly being offered by Paris, and the fact that those stories came from journalists who are supposedly close to Leo and his camp. You know, it wouldn't surprise me in the least if City's point of view a year ago was, all right, cool, we'll do it on a free next summer, and also we don't have to get silly with the contracts. We can wait a year and we can go there and we can offer him a deal that we feel fits within our financial worldview and allows him to come to England. And I wonder whether Leo's camp are now going, well, you know what, City, you can't have a free run at it. It's not just a case of you offer a contract and we take the contract you put in front of us. I think that all of the Paris stories are about engineering some financial leverage for themselves when they actually negotiate with City, because the reality is you're not going to use Paris to negotiate with Barcelona because Barcelona have got no money, right? So they're not paying you whatever the contracts are at City and Paris. They ain't coming from Barca anyway. So either you're serious about moving to Paris Saint-Germain, which is an absolute nonsense. It's never going to happen. I won't podcast again if he moves to Paris. I won't ever do any of this business again.
John, mate, you don't have to do that to yourself, because it's not. If he wants to make that mistake, it's not your fault. So you're not responsible for Messi being a dick if he does that.
I take that back. I take that back.
No, you're staying, man. I'm sorry, you're staying. Yeah, exactly. Okay. It's not your fault. But no, I share that general sentiment, though. If he goes to PSG, then he's lost his head, because it's not a sensible decision whatsoever. Beautiful way of life in Paris, I'm sure, but he's got that in Barcelona. He doesn't need to go to another team that's going to underachieve a little bit. Because if I was Messi anyway watching PSG, I'm thinking they haven't got composure. They need composure and organisation, and they lost their heads against us. Messi ain't going to change that. You can't change the whole collective mentality of the squad. Well, actually, he's got a decent chance, but their problem is that they're used to things going their own way domestically, and they can't get over the idea of then someone stepping to them in the Champions League and being a level above what they're used to week in, week out. And it sets a level of expectation and almost entitlement in your head, which they can't deal with in the Champions League, in my personal opinion. It took a while for them to get used to that. What I just looked, by the way, when you were chatting about Messi's stats, I forgot how good he was this season. He scored 38 goals this season in 47 games. Like this, he's not even close to finish, man. Like 30 and 35. He's only 2 goals away, which he'll probably get to get 40 goals again, which is just like, he's still so good. He's 33 years old, but he's got another, honestly, 3 years, possibly at the top, in my opinion, scoring at 20 plus goals a season. I really hand on heart believe that, because he's built different, Messi, isn't he? He really is, man. Either way, let's talk about Haaland, mate. Let's talk about Haaland, because Michael Zorc, which is the sporting director over at Borussia Dortmund, has said, and let me get the quote up, I've got in my notepad here, he said, "You play for us in the news, and I've said it 5 times now," he said. And that's because Dortmund are now in the Champions League, which is, it's not optimal for Manchester City, because Dortmund being the Champions League means they get a guaranteed like 40-ish million, which they budget for every year, something like that. That definitely is a financial solidification for them, I would say. Haaland, has it just got an awful lot more difficult to sign this guy now, given Dortmund's security financially?
No, it was always difficult. It was always going to be difficult to sign him. I don't think that. I think obviously them qualifying for the Champions League gives them stability financially and gives them stability in terms of their income for next season, and also from a footballing point of view, to be able to sell to prospective incoming players and to the squad that you've got, that you're playing Champions League football. I think that's really a big deal. I'm a little bit skeptical about this idea that they're going to sell Jadon Sancho, right, and then force Haaland to stay. Sancho's return to their team has coincided with their return to form. Sancho is the guy who basically loads the bullets for Haaland. He's their most important creative player. Selling him and then trying to force Haaland to stay does not strike me as the kind. Like, imagine saying to Mino Raiola, "Hey, Mino, guess what? We're selling Jaden. Yeah, we've got Royce and we've got Julian Brandt and we've got all of these guys. Don't worry about that. We've got Mukoku coming through. Like, relax. Erling, he's got to stay for another year." I don't know, man. I'm skeptical.
The thing for me,
I'm very skeptical.
It's just such a mixed messaging. I mean, Mina could go, well, you could just call the bluff and go, you got to sell him anyway. Let's just fucking cut to the chase, man. Like, it's the idea like, oh, we're selling Sancho, but it means we don't need to sell you. Like, no, you are going to sell me. It just is whether it's now or 12 months from now. So why are you pretending you got this strong hand? We all know the end game here. So if I was Mina, I'd be like, well, who are we kidding? Don't act like just because you sold one player, it makes it hard to sell another. No, this is who you are as a club, and that's not criticism of Dortmund. They can do what they want and be who they want, but we know it's inevitable that they're going to sell him anyway. So the idea that it makes it a stronger leverage for them is like, no, it doesn't. It's just a matter of, are you going to do it next year or are you doing it now? It doesn't make any difference for Haaland's camp, in my personal opinion, because it's not like, oh yeah, they've got a stronger argument because they've sold Sancho. If anything, it just proves Haaland and Raiola's point that they're a selling club, and that's all they're going to do anyway. So they're acting like this is proof they can keep him because they've sold someone, but actually all you're proving is that you're willing to sell these players in the first place. Does that make sense?
Exactly.
It's like
it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. It's not a way.
It's not an argument. It's just a proof of their argument.
Actually, if you want to keep Haaland, what you do is you say, not only we're not selling Haaland, but Sancho isn't for sale either because we're building a team to win the Bundesliga, right? That's what you do. When you turn around and go, our best player is going to get sold this summer, but our other best player is not going to get sold, you like, I can't be arsed with the German football clubs in general. I can't be arsed with the romance around German football. I can't be arsed with Watzke. Can't be asked with Dortmund. My level of can't be asked is really, really, really high with all of these people and all of these things. And I think that I sit very quietly on this side of the fence where I think Erling Haaland has to say out loud when the season ends, I want to go to Manchester City. If he says that, he'll be a City player before the summer's over. If he doesn't say it, fuck him, we'll sign somebody else.
That's aggressive and strong, and I'm kind of with you, to be honest, man. But what it's worth, I've got zero doubts that Haaland probably wants to come Man City.
Me too.
Or
Me too.
If he wants to come Man City, he's never going to have a better chance. And that's the other thing I would say. Like, look, we can't wait around for you, mate. Because I don't think City have to wait around for what it's worth. They'll find someone else. And Haaland, he knows he's Haaland, he knows he's great, and he knows his stock, and it's worth a load and all that kind of stuff. But we're not going to sign two big number 9 consecutive seasons, and we're going to sign one this summer, whether it's Haaland or not, in my personal opinion. So if Haaland wants to be the man to succeed Aguero, if Haaland wants to essentially walk into possibly the best team in the world, unchallenged, how often do you get that? Then this has got to be when he goes, does it? We potentially going to be the Champions League finalists. And even if we don't, Champions League winners, and even if we don't win that, there's still a strong argument that we're the best team in the world right now. We're Premier League champions as well in a league that he grew up watching, for a club that he grew up, idolizing as a fan. When is he going to get a better chance to walk in to a team of this stature? Once again, literally unopposed. And there's no one to challenge him for that number 9 shirt. And that sounds disrespectful to Torres and Gabriel Jesus. But to be honest, I mean it. Like, if he comes to Manchester City, he's the first choice striker. He's the first choice striker, and the others have got to challenge him. But we all know that if he just does anything that he's been doing over the past couple of years, he's going to be on number 9 regardless. And as long as he carries on finishing to the quality that he does, he's got that shirt in the bag, So I don't really see... I don't really see why Haaland wouldn't push for this, because if he doesn't, to be honest, he's really naive, because it's a chance for him as well. And I know his life's going to be great either way, but if he really does care about this club, which I think he does care about his potential to earn massive amounts of money, which I'm sure he does, and also win a load of trophies and play with some of the best players in the world, the best passers in the world, the best coach in the world. What is he waiting for, man? That's the way I see it. It's really cut and dry for him. And he's not stupid either. He's not stupid, is he, surely? Go on, what are you going to say?
No, it's the last thing that's really important. I think that, the calculation that Haaland and Raiola, the whole camp will be making, he wants to win things, right? I think that he's a little bit, he's got the right mentality in that, like, he feels like a serial winner who only wants to win trophies. I think the calculation that they've got to make, that they will make, is that City is the only destination in the Premier League, because City are the only club that have consistently over the last decade finished in the top 4, finished in the top 2, and won the most titles. So if you're looking at the situation, you're going, in the Premier League, there's only really Man City. Because what do? Do you go at United and then finish second for the next decade? Do you go to Chelsea and finish third for the next decade? Do you go to Liverpool and finish fourth for the next decade? And I'm not saying that literally that's what will happen. Of course, City aren't going to win every title. But if you look at recent history, City are winning titles in volumes, right? They're the only English club that are winning titles in volumes. If you're Haaland, if you want to win titles in volumes, Manchester City is the destination in England. I would go so far as to say that if Manchester City were to sign, for example, Harry Kane this summer, then I would expecting Erling Haaland to join Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, or Barcelona next summer, because he just won't come to the Premier League because he ain't going to want to compete with City.
That's a big shout. And you're probably not wrong, man. I mean, one thing I will say, as you were saying all that, and I think it's a simple yes or no answer, really. Is there a more stable club guaranteed of trophies that will pay you to live like a king in the world of Manchester City Football Club?
Not a chance.
There isn't.
Not a chance.
There simply isn't. And it really does boil down to that. I mean, then once again, you add the emotional factor. He's honestly like... Go on.
I urge people to go and listen to... Gab Marcotti and Julian Laurence did a podcast at the start of last week, the ESPN podcast, after we'd won the title, where they talk about City and how City are run. And when you listen to that, these are football men. That's when you begin to realize that, or you should, if you don't know it already, you should hear that and realize we operate at a different level behind the scenes, organizationally, to most other clubs in Europe. So you can have your opinion if you're a neutral on FFP. You can have your opinion on Abu Dhabi or Sheikh Mansour owning a football club. You cannot dispute that if you're a footballer and you're going, right, what's my move? In England, Man City is the move. And the proof of the pudding is in the eating.
I mean, people will hate to admit it, but Manchester City aren't just set on being the best team in the world, man. But they want to rule the sport, and it may be terrifying for rivals, but the ambitions and the way that Manchester City are run, it's mind blowing, and they are incredibly well run. People can pretend that or not, but they know what they're doing, man. And there's no better bet. Cameron, by the way, said, "I've changed my opinion. Get the big Nordic bastard this summer. No waiting. I still think Bissouma will have to wait until next summer as Fernie is staying. But either way, Cameron, all aboard the Haaland hype train.
Definitely.
I need to start. I did the Messi hype train over the summer last year, and I need to start a new one. It'd be the Haaland helicopter. I don't know, something like that. And I'll get something going over the summer, Cameron. But everyone, mate, welcome aboard to the Haaland helicopter. Helicopter doesn't work.
The Haaland hovercraft.
Yes, the Haaland hovercraft's making its way across the channel, man. It's coming to Manchester. He's going across land and sea to get to his beloved Manchester. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. The Haaland hovercraft's on its way. Can't wait. I hope this hovercraft gifts, because I'm going to need them on Twitter. If not, I'll have to make some. But either way, guys, there's loads more to talk about. Let's get on to Nuno Mendes, mate, because it's been a topsy-turvy few hours, topsy-turvy few days in the world of Nuno Mendes gossip. Basically, at the back end of last week, Gonçalo Lopez, who does Gonçalo Lopez write for? I can't remember. He's a Portuguese journalist. He seems to be relatively well connected over in Portugal, from what I can tell. Either way, he was reporting, and I'm taking this from Man City report. Big love to the lads over there, saying City are planning to offer a total package of 60 million euros, which includes an initial fee of around 51.3 million euros plus Pedro Porro. However, despite being desperate to keep Porro, Sporting are not willing to include him in a deal for Mendes, and it's forced City will make a formal offer for Mendes in the coming weeks, and the 18-year-old is keen on the move to England. However, just during the start of the game against Newcastle, Jack Gorn, a relatively well-connected journalist, said that Man City was saying they're not interested in Nuno Mendes. What are you making of on all this? Is it smoke screens and mirrors and all that kind of stuff, or is it? Do you think there's something in this, mate?
I didn't realize that Mendes' agent is Bruno Fernandes's agent. And when I found that out, some fella some fella who told so many lies about City being in for Bruno Fernandes that in the end, City picked up the phone. It's something they very rarely do. Rang a bunch of journalists and went, "Whoever this knobhead is, he's chatting shit. We've got no interest in Bruno Fernandes. We never made a bid for him. We know
wording,
who he is.
As well.
That's it." More or
Head
less, that was the exact wording.
Chatting shit,
I mean?
mate.
Head of comms was like, "Don't know who this knobhead is, but he needs to stop planting stories." No, look, so Mendes' agent is the same agent as Bruno Fernandes' agent. Jack Horn is somebody who has a very good relationship with many people around Manchester City. If Jack says City have got no interest in Nuno Mendes, then unfortunately for those people who like Nuno Mendes, City have got no interest in Nuno Mendes right now. I think go on.
I was going to say, what devil's advocate, what benefit is there telling Jack yes we are? Because would they tell him anyway? If you know what I mean by that, I'm just purely hypothetically.
Yeah,
would they tell Jack?
Yeah, they would. Yeah, they
would.
Would he? If they went, if they had it, go on.
Go on. No, carry on. Go on. I had nothing more to add to that.
If they carried an interest in Nuno Mendes that was serious enough that it could become a bid, they would just say, "We haven't bid yet. We like the player. We're looking at him, but we haven't bid yet." That's not what they said. Yeah. What they said was, "We're not in for Nuno Mendes," which is what they said about Bruno Fernandes. And Portugal repeated over and over again. City said it like 6 times. "We're not in for Bruno Fernandes." A week later, you'd have the same guys in Portugal writing the same story about, "Oh, City have offered a package worth this much or that much." I think the other thing that we should probably be cognizant of is he's 18 and he's done a season just about of senior football, and they're talking about 70 million euro. So you don't roll like that. Do you know what I mean? Like he's not even Erling Haaland, right? Like, I'm not being funny, but we talk about Erling Haaland and we go like, "Yeah, but are City going to pay like 130, 140 for Haaland?" Haaland has scored more goals than anybody else in European football in the last 2 years, and we're having a conversation about whether we'd pay that much money for him. And you think they're going to pay 70 for some left back that's only played 20 senior games? Could be brilliant, but could be, do you know what I mean? Like I think that I'm leaning towards what Jack said, which is this is a hype thing and they want to sell him and they want to get as much money as they can for him. And therefore, it's easy to go, City want him.
And must admit, it reaches the headlines easy, and it's there's been a lot of noise coming out, but I would not be surprised if it is just agent stuff. I mean, one thing I will say is that there's sometimes like things can be even a little bit true, and then it can steamroll from there. For example, it's very possible that Nuno Mendes is on a list. You know, like he is on a list of left backs that they are watching or whatever. So like, but there's a big step from watching a player, being interested in a player, to bidding 70 million. Got to get it done this summer and all that kind of stuff. So once again, I think it's very possible City watching Nuno Mendes. Whether he's going to bid for him, I don't know. Maybe Jack is right. It's very possible. But I think we forget like it's either not true, not interested at all, or he is interested in going to buy him. No, it's probably just like they're City watching him because he's a young, talented left back, and every club in the world's watching young, talented left back. So that's most likely true. And I mean, I know it's not what City do. Do you want to see City do potentially more of that? Because I mean, would anyone have complained looking back in hindsight now we'd signed a young Kylian Mbappe from Monaco for 50 million? You know, ahead of someone like PSG. I mean, would you? Do you want to see City maybe take those kind of big punts, or are you just happy to carry on how we are? Because let's be honest, it works, doesn't it? What we're doing at the moment.
I don't want us to pay over 50 million euros for a fullback. I'm not in that world. Unless the fullback has gotten 15 assists and double figures in goals in the previous 2 seasons, we should not be spending that sort of money on a fullback. Like, you know, it's not that's not that you can't run. I don't think we can run the club like that. And actually, I get a little bit annoyed at people saying things like, "We won't spend 140 on Haaland, but we should spend 70 on Mendes. I'm like, why don't we stop spending 70 on guys like Mendes? And once every 3 years, when a generational true worldie comes through, why don't we break a transfer record and bring that player in? Because overall, our scouting is really good. You know, we seem to manage to, if you look through the squad, how many duds are really there? If you're honest with yourself, real duds. Do you know what I mean? Like none. Who's a real dud in that? Who's a Naby Keita in that squad?
Exactly. Yeah.
Who's a Shaqiri in that squad? Who's a dud on that left back that Liverpool signed for? Even though he was cheap, still your man. I don't think I've even seen him in a match day squad.
The Greek guy,
Simicus. Right there you go. This is what I mean. Like, are there duds? Do we sign a lot of duds? I don't think we do. So I don't think. No, I don't. I don't think that spending record amounts on 18-year-old fullbacks is something that I'm ever going to get excited about.
That's fair enough, man. And one thing I will say is, like, obviously, I guess I understand people thinking we could do it, given that we have spent 50 million on plus on free fullbacks. I mean, obviously, it's the Danilo swap thing with Cancelo, but valuations of Cancelo, Mendy, Walker, we've got precedent, I guess. We would say for spending a lot, but maybe that's probably why we feel like we shouldn't do it again. And I'm with you on that, man. A simple question here from Ash, who says, love the show, guys. Thank you so much. Ash, 20 legend. Do you think it's now or never for Haaland? A bit like when Mbappe moved from Monaco. We kind of touched on that earlier, but is it now or never?
It depends upon what transpires in the next. How many days did I say? It depends on what transpires in the next 40 something days.
A month and a half in it, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that. I only envisage one scenario under which City wait a year for Haaland, and that scenario means that they don't sign Harry Kane this summer. And for that to happen, they'd have to land Leo. I think if they land Leo, then they may well go, hey, you know what? Let's do Haaland on the release clause next summer, and Leo can basically provide the goals over the next 12 months that Haaland would normally bring. But that's the only way that I see us waiting, because I think that if you can't get Leo, you're going to sign Harry Kane.
No, I'm with you on that, man. I think that makes an awful lot of sense as well. I think if Leo comes in, they go, do you know what, we can wait a year. And it's logical, because then you go, well, Ferran scored. Put it this way, if you sat there and you're trying to justify something, you go, oh, we can't get Haaland. You go, well, why can't we get Haaland? Oh, because we've got Messi, the greatest ever. He's going to score 30 goals. Ferran scored a hat-trick the other day. They'll be going, oh, he can score loads of goals for us. Who knows, man? If we can convince the lap to stay around, he could start to show a bit of talent. You know, they basically, they can find reasons to justify the action right then, because you've signed Messi. You know, like that's a big enough reason. But so maybe it's not now or never, but I mean, I would say there's never been a better time for what it's worth. I think we all know that now is the exact right time, and mainly because I think football is in love with stories, and I think football is in love with romance, and I think signing Haaland now would be symbolic because of Sergio leaving as well. And I don't know, I feel like sometimes football writes these little moments, and like this ex-Man City. This Man City legend leaving, and this young kid whose dad played for the club, and he's got shirts wearing and replacing him. I can't help but imagine like Carl Doonan sits there dreaming of what it'd be like just to announce Haaland. Like, surely like signing a superstar must be tempting for them as owners as well, because it's like look, mate, I get excited about buying a new kettle, you know, because I'm like, yes, God, like imagine being like having to own a football club and getting to sign the hottest prospects in the world. Imagine how buzzing you'd feel. You'd be excited, wouldn't you? You'd be like, that's my club, and I've done that.
Massively so. And also, what you've got to remember is that our success is relatively new. So we don't have the generational impact that Liverpool or Man United have. So it's going to be fucking rare that you have a lad who is 18, 19, 20, who is the best in the world in his position, who grew up wearing Manchester City shirts. If you sat in the boardroom and you're doing the calculation, you're doing the maths, and you're going, all right, how much do we have to overpay by? How many records do we have to break? Surely that will be balanced with, look at the marketing kick on that we can have here, because the connection to the club is organic. And that organic
I saw someone say, by the way, and I see, I think it's a really interesting point in the marketing. I saw someone say I think it was on Blue Moon Forum, imagine the marketing connection of those photos of Haaland and Foden next to each other. Do you remember when they're hugging each other after the game? And you got this little and large kind of thing. It looks cool as well. One's massive, one's small. Both City boys in their own way. Both two of the best young players in world football. That is just marketing gold, isn't it? It's absolute gold. Even the height difference kind of looks kind of cool in a way. You know what I mean by that? It looks dramatic, doesn't it? It looks exciting, and it is exciting. I mean, I can't. There was someone more intelligent than me will come up with a better term, but they'd be like the Golden Boys or something like that. When it'll be, imagine Ferran actually capitalizing on his confidence and when you've got 3 21-year-old wonder kids playing at the same time. There's just, if I was sat there and I'm a marketing person, I'm like Haaland and Foden in the same team, Kevin De Bruyne and all these people. Do it. Just do it, because the world of football tunes in for every game. It tunes in for every game.
I think they want to. I think they're desperate to. I think, I don't fear the idea that City aren't going to do everything they can to get Haaland. I don't even fear the idea that Dortmund won't sell him. And I'm not even afraid of Haaland going, I don't want to come, because in the end, if he doesn't want to come, I don't ever want a guy here who doesn't want to come. I think we find ourselves in a ridiculously blessed position where our transfer conversation is Messi, Kane, Haaland, and then the tier below is like, oh, well, do we look at Lukaku or Lautaro, or do we look at, who's killing it in Germany right now? You see what I mean? Like, we're not, this will be the most fun summer. This will be the most fun summer, I think, to be a City fan in some time, because I think that people will be able to relax and enjoy the title that we've just won whilst not feeling like they're not doing everything they can to make sure that we're even better next season. The club have said, all of the post title win big pieces in all the papers, it's quite telling that most of them reference the fact that the club have privately acknowledged that they made a mistake in not replacing Vincent Kompany the summer that he left, and that they absolutely will not make that mistake with Aguero this summer. When they're all saying the same thing, it's because somebody at the club, very high up, is saying exactly the same thing to all the same people, which it begins to tell me that we're in for a treat. Do you know what I mean? And I know that I'm an optimist, so there's an element of that, but I also think that don't be afraid of the silence. City are a very classy operation. They don't talk shit and they don't talk loud. Yeah, they really don't talk loud ever, and particularly not about transfers. And when you're dealing with tens of millions into hundreds of millions as a negotiation for a single player, City are not gonna. They're not going to react to Raiola. They're not going to react to headlines. They're not going to react to anything. They know what they want to do. The season will end, and they will do their best to do it. So, I'm in a really good spot when it comes to this summer's window.
Same, man, same. Addy just said, Full said, no kid grew up watching Richard Dunn. Foden did, man. You're right. Foden did. It's mad to think that Foden did grow up watching Richard Dunn. I think he's about 7 or 8 probably, because he's absolutely incredibly young. And when it was Dunny's last game, probably like 2008, 9 or something, I don't even remember. When was Dunny's last game? I'm going to type that out because I need to remember. But either way, 2009. Wow. Yeah, it was a lot more recent than I remember it being, actually. Dunny, absolute legend. Great bloke as well.
Do you remember? Do you remember when Gary Cook said, with the best will in the world, names like Richard Dunn don't roll off the tongue in Southeast Asia, or something equally crass?
Good luck
about
marketing Phil Foden then, man. Good.
In it, do you know what I mean? Good luck marketing Stockport Phil. Yo, have you seen Phil's mum's handiwork from the weekend?
I mean, I'm not going to go into too much for legal reasons on this, but that was
that's all I'm saying.
It's been like I tweeted at Nabil about that. It's like Nabil's been Mr. Gossip over the past couple of days. Like, we saw Guardiola's daughter getting allegedly intimate with Mr. Dele Alli, allegedly. all that kind of stuff. And then allegedly, Phil's mum in a bit of a brawl, and she's quite scary actually. To me, I wouldn't like to get across Claire Foden by the looks of it. Genuinely,
Wow.
Stockport, man. That's Stockport's finest for you. We'll get on. Yeah, that's Stockport. Rockport, as I used to call it when I was a young lad. Basically, we'll get on to Bissouma in a second, by the way, but Ryan's asked, any outgoings this summer? That's an interesting one, because we rarely talk about outgoings on this channel. When we're chatting, mate. But it's a good question, I guess. Didn't Guardiola said something? I swear he said something the other day after or before Newcastle, when he was like, players are showing who wants to be here next season or something like that. What was it? I can't remember the wording, but it was something like they're showing who wants to be here next season. We'll decide. Like that, wasn't it?
He said after the season ends, we'll decide who's going to stay and who's going to go. That's what he said. In terms of outgoings, I think that I think it's going to be a very interesting summer, because I think that there are players in the squad who, if they feel they're unhappy with their playing time and they bring an offer, I think the club will sell them. I think that's the first thing.
Okay.
I think the second thing is that there are players who maybe the club selfishly would like to keep, but also will acknowledge that if the right offer for that player's career comes in, that Guardiola probably will advise that player to take that offer. I think that we have to be... I feel there's a reset of sorts coming. I feel it began last summer. I feel it will continue this summer. There's a few players in that squad who I wouldn't be shocked if an offer came in and they were sold. I won't name any of them, because I don't think that it's... I don't want to do that right now.
Interesting.
I think it makes more sense. We have players in that squad who are massively valuable to other clubs in Europe, where I begin to look at certain situations and go, we might get an offer there, because that club over there are about to lose a player, or maybe even two players in that position, who earn 250, 300K a week. So they're a big, big club. So they might turn around and go, you know what? We need to replace our club captain, our talisman, who's been here for X amount of time.
Who are you referring to there? Which player? It's in the club captain one. Not the player's going.
I'm not even doing that. I'm not even doing that.
Right, everyone in the comments, who could Ahsan be referring to? Like, in terms of club captain, he's going to be leaving potentially.
Club legend, 350 grand a week, I believe he's on. Yeah,
he's last year of the contract as well.
Oh yeah, he goes on a free. He's another one who goes on a free in 40 something days.
Oh, I can't remember who that's going to be. Someone's going to be able to tell. Sergio Ramos. Maybe it could be him. Well, Messi, obviously, we know. And it's interesting to see what people say, because people can guess. Yeah, people like Ramos, obviously, is a good one. Maybe people will go, oh, we need a centre back here. Maybe Laporte becomes a lot more tempting. People like that. I mean, I'm saying these. You can nod along to everything I'm saying, so you don't have to say anything. But there are people. Yeah, there are people. I remember seeing the list of players that are going to expire next summer as well. And it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous that the high quality of players that potentially coming on the market in about 7-8 months from now on a potential free transfer, like pre-deal in January.
It's been widely reported in Spain and in France that Rafael Varane has told Real Madrid that he won't sign a new contract there under any circumstances, and his contract expires next summer. This summer is the last moment for them to get a fee for him. They have a massive call to make. Sergio Ramos, I believe, has got a pre-agreement with another club. So you imagine Real Madrid are about to lose. I know. I'm not saying anything about anything, but I think it's really important that we have one eye on the notion that and you know what? There are many factors involved. Contractual situation in our squad, age in our squad, looking at the general evolution of the squad. You might have a player who's 30, and you've got another player who's 19 or 20 who's available, and you might go, you know what? I love that 30-year-old and he's amazing, but he's 30 and I either have to give him a new contract now or I have to let him go on a free. How do I make this decision? Do I go and sign a younger player? There's calls to be made, wider picture. When Khaldoon and Guardiola met in the Maldives in November, when it was agreed that or October, whenever it was agreed that Pep was going to stay for another 2 years, it's really about the work that needs to be done. What work needs to be done? A lot of work needs to be done, Pep, and we want you to do it. What does that mean? We want you to build another team. We want you to go again. You know, we're not perfect. We know we can be better. We want you to be the guy who does that. And then Pep's answer, obviously, is, do we have the resources to do what we want to do? You don't have to worry about the resources. You'll have the resources that you need. So I'm really excited about this summer. That's all I can say. And it's not because I want to sell players, but it's because I know that the club want to buy players and the club want to refresh. Go on.
One thing I will say, if we sold a big player, like if we sold a big popular player, and it felt a little bit unexpected, a weird part of me would feel like, well, not excited is not the right word. It's like it's intriguing because I trust this club. I trust this club to know what they're doing, and if they sell. Imagine they sold someone like Mahrez or Laporte or someone like that who's a big player, and I'd be like, well, doesn't that mean we're going to sign someone exceptionally exciting? Or does it mean that they're planning for the future with Guardiola? But the way I see it, basically, I would see it as actually forward thinking, and I would trust the owners. And it'd be terrifying because you're seeing these players that were familiar, but the best clubs are ruthless, man. The best clubs they know what they're doing, and they're willing to swing an axe if they feel like it'll help the club push forward. And they're not going to they're not going to get rid of a player like that without a plan, I guess is what I'm getting at. And pretty much all the plans Manchester City make work. We're very good at plans. And if it meant like we had to get rid of a player a little bit earlier who maybe just pushing 30 or around 30 or whatever, and someone moved on, I don't know who it'd be, and I have no idea either. But I guess I'm getting at is I just trust him. I trust him. And it's kind of like, it's wild.
Exactly. And it might be that the player goes, this club, if they make the offer, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to leave immediately. And I think that if the player says that, there's very few players in this squad where Guardiola would stand in their way. Genuinely. I think that if any player turns up and he goes, this club are going to make this offer, which is my valuation, and I want to leave and I don't want any arguments, I think Pep will be like, all right, cool. We'll do that.
I think there's maybe a couple that he try, but otherwise, most I agree. Maybe he try with Foden and be like, mate, come on. Well, you lost your head. You're a City fan. What are you doing?
Yeah,
I think exactly, yeah. Like
outside of Phil and Kev, who's he fighting for?
No, you're right. Maybe a couple of key players, maybe Edison or something like that. I think maybe be like, who's going to give you a better treatment as a goalkeeper than I'm going to give? You know what I mean? Like, other than that, I agree. Largely, I think he's principled, and if players want to go, as he said, if you don't want to be here, you can go, man. Big love to Scott Denemy, by the way. Just love these videos, Ahsan. Big fan, but I'm always glad I got you. Scott is a legend. Scott, it's good to catch you on, man, as well. I'm glad you're catching these ones, mate. Absolute hero. Let's get on to Yves Bissouma, because I know, and I'm sure you've heard the same, man. City are actually interested in this lad. The Brighton guy, he's been an excellent signing for them. I think he cost them how much did he cost them? Like 12 to 20 million? I can't remember how much he cost them, but either way.
No, I think it was less than that.
Was it?
I want to say it was under 10. I want to say it was under 10.
Let's have a look. I mean, either way, he hasn't cost them a lot, by Premier League standards. And he's been a really good signing for them, man. He's turned a lot of heads. There's a striking similarity in his game style to Fernandinho as well. I mean, obviously, he's not Fernandinho, who is Fernandinho, and I mean that quite literally. He's still a world-class player. At his peak, Fernandinho, for his age, it's crazy how good he is, and his game understanding, his intelligence. Well, you can only be Fernandinho with that level of experience anyway, is what I will say. But he's 24 years old. It's very possible that he'll be available on a reasonable fee. And I guess as well, you could even extend his argument saying that Brighton, there's probably not got a lot to lose by being cozy with Manchester City, I would say. I mean, if I was Brighton and I'm their chairman or whatever, I'd be like, all right, we've got to sell him, but can we just get in the good books of Man City and look for a loan or two here or there, something like that? That's what I would be doing if I was Brighton. So I guess the conclusion is Bissouma could make sense for a lot of sides here. Do you think there's anything in this? Because it would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it?
Did you say at the very beginning that you know for a fact that City are in for him?
I've heard from someone that you may know as well that feels like City, he's actually on City's list.
Right. Okay. Fine.
It's the same person we both spoke to before who feels like they, you know, I think you know who I'm referring to, potentially. Yep. But like, I'll put it in the private chat, man. If you can see the private chat,
I can. Oh yes. Yeah.
And that person is sorry, guys, to keep you out of it. I know it's a little bit thing, but they said that it's real and City are interested. And I trust that person. You know, like they seem pretty. Doesn't mean we're going to sign them for what it's worth. But it would make a lot of sense. Do you think Fernandinho's going to stay for another year? By the way, would that could be a potential dampener for this transfer?
So I think even if Ferner stays another year, I don't see City not signing his replacement as being a financial decision. So, for example, if Bissouma's available and he's got a release clause and City have to do that deal, because if they don't do it, Liverpool will do it, but he wants to come to City, City will do that deal. They're not going to go, well, we kept Fernandinho for a year, so let's let Bissouma go to Liverpool and we'll just figure it out next summer when Ferner leaves. I think we're a bit better run than that. So I expect that they do it either way. I like him a lot as a player because I actually think that, you know, I'm not convinced that he's a 6 in the same way that I wasn't convinced that Fernandinho was a 6 when Fernandinho arrived at City.
Well, because he wasn't. Yeah, he was more of an 8. Like, yeah,
it's that makes me think maybe he is the guy, and maybe that is the smart move. And I like the idea of him being a bit more versatile and being able to play a little bit further forward, because I think Pep likes to have that versatility in any player that he signs. And he's different characteristically to Rodri. He has very different characteristics to Rodri. So in general, I really like it as a potential transfer. And I also like the fact that there's a lot of serious interest in him. I know all the Liverpool in the knows say that they're going to sign him, that they're the favourites. I know a lot of Arsenal in the knows are saying they're the favourites, they're going to sign him. So he's obviously a player who's well in demand and is on everybody's list. Yeah.
He's Liverpool guy. I mean, I'm sure Liverpool offered it and they accepted he would go to Liverpool. It'd be a good move for him in terms of his career, no doubt. But I'm quite excited because we could see him in action tomorrow. Man City play Brighton tomorrow, it feels weird because games just kind of sneak up at the moment because they don't really have any kind of, I guess, hidden meaning. And I guess we get to watch him tomorrow, man, which will be interesting to see. And we do know, like, Pep loves an audition. We've seen it with, you know, Monaco and Bernardo and all that kind of stuff. And we've seen Guardiola, like, earmark players. Gundogan said in that Players Tribune interview where afterwards, after playing against a Guardiola side, Pep made a beeline for him and like kind of nudged him and talked to him, and he knew at that moment he felt like he was going to be wanted from Guardiola in the future. And this Guardiola, you can watch videos and all that kind of stuff, but the amount of scouts who still say that a player leaves a bigger impression in person when you watch them face to face and all that kind of stuff, it's human nature. So if Bissouma plays tomorrow against Manchester City and has a big game and he's not stupid, he'll know it's a chance. Who knows, man? Things can develop that way because it sounds irrational for such an organised club to be influenced by 190 minutes, but football is irrational, you know. And
absolutely,
and
the best managers they do that. The best managers,
they trust their instinct, don't they?
They'll know when they see a player play against them. They'll know by watching him perform, and you know, just to go back to the whole like why Pep kept picking a rotated side against Chelsea. That's why, because he didn't want Thomas Tuchel to get a first-hand look at what his boys are going to do. Like, there's just no substitute for that thing, for being a manager, standing on the sideline and seeing the guy play against your team and getting a vibe for how good or bad they are.
we always put more weight on the things we visually experience in person than we do on video. It's just human nature. And we always will do, because if you can feel it, and as simple as there's more senses going off, you can hear them, you can smell the pitch, you can visual. That stuff matters, and you gets your head going more. And it is the more permanent memory. You remember things more when you're at a game than you do on TV. It's just human nature, and that'll be exactly the same when it comes to scouting players. So we'll see. Finally, as well, what do you want to see from the game tomorrow, man? Are you expecting it's just to be a complete 11 swap out for the other 11 players you weren't playing? Because who didn't play? I mean, I'm going to look at the bench again. Man City, Newcastle. I can't even remember who didn't play now. But is that what you're expecting tomorrow?
I think all the big boys come back tomorrow. So I think.
Oh yeah, so there we go. Diaz, Stones, Laporte, Mendy, Fernandinho, Mahrez, Foden. Palmer was on the bench. Maybe who knows? Go on.
I'd like us to not play our best team before Chelsea. So I expect either tomorrow or next weekend to see more or less the Champions League final team get a run out. In terms of because they're dead rubbers, in a way, my thing is I'm asked about what team he picks. That's Pep's call. He can pick whatever team he wants. My personal desire, I'd love to see Cole Palmer. Really would love to see him.
Same, man.
Just because from what I've seen at the lower level, he's the closest to the first team in terms of talent and ability and naturalness and just everything. So yeah, I'd love to see him get a little run out. Am I right in saying that he's the closest, Steve?
There's a few players that are very, very close, and to me, Cole Palmer, he's a mini Mahrez. He really is, and he's a fantastically gifted player, technically excellent. He's got that little bit of attitude as well, in a good way, in terms of the pitch, where he's willing to take an extra touch or two, in the way that Sancho kind of was. Not saying he's not quite that level, maybe. It's also worth bearing in mind, if a player isn't quite at a level someone else was, it doesn't mean they can't get to there as well. It might just be they get there a little bit slower. It's always worth adding that, because we always assume development is on a linear path, but it isn't. Some players get better being exposed around better players, and they go up and up and up. And we've seen countless examples of players that once were nothing more than a squad player that become first team players because they just improve over years. But anyway, Cole Palmer is he's already 6 foot tall, and he's not even grown into his body yet, which is always a good sign. And he's technically excellent. I really rate him. He's done more than enough and absolutely dominated the Premier League too at his age, which is the collection of young players in this country. And he's dominated that alongside Delap and McAtee and Doyle and Cohen and Romeo Lavia. He's done enough to me to warrant that spot. And remember when he played against Burnley, I thought he was good, man. I thought he was good.
I thought he was excellent.
Yeah, so do I. And someone just said here, Fabio just said, Foden's generational talent, Palmer isn't. What I will say once again is not everyone looks generational at a young age. Is what I will say. You telling me, well, Didier Drogba wasn't an absolute world-class striker, and he was.
Can I ask a question?
Where was he until 27? That's what I will say.
Can I ask a question to that guy who just left that super chat? How many times has he seen Cole Palmer play? And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. It's just that I wouldn't have the first clue. You know what I mean? Like if somebody said to me, at what level is Palmer? I go, I've got not a clue. That's why I want to see him play, because the flashes have been wonderful. But
I'm sorry, but Kevin De Bruyne wasn't a generational talent at that age in terms of no one treated him that way. And he wasn't. No one treated Joao Cancelo as a generational talent. No one treated Fernandinho. No one heard of Fernandinho until he was mid-20s. And once again, genuinely, I hate this idea that you're either a superstar now or you're not a superstar at all. It's such a simplistic argument. It's never true. The amount of players who knew what Edison was doing until he was 23? Who knew what Kyle Walker was all these players that have achieved this much at potentially world class in their positions, they weren't killing Mbappe when they were 19. But there's nothing wrong with that.
Even in the generational basket, right? The guys like Mbappe and Foden are massive outliers. Yeah, generally.
Yeah, of course they are.
Even with generational talents, you're talking about 20, 21, 22, where they begin to explode. Foden, Mbappe, Haaland, they are a level above that generational, because they've had that thing from a very young. I mean, Foden in particular, and a little bit Mbappe as well. Those two, I think their coaches knew at 14 and 15 that they were going to be the best players in their respective positions by the time they were 18, 19, because they are way, way, way high. They're the outliers, even in the wonder kid basket, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course, man. Like he's just said, Cancelo was seen as a generational talent. I'm sorry, but he wasn't a superstar in 1920. That's just not true, mate. I'm sorry, he wasn't, Fabio. I know Fabio's defending here. But what I'm saying is, like, football is so fickle. It's so fickle that, and it moves on so quickly that I guarantee you, if Cole Palmer. I've seen it. I can confidently say I've been watching the academy regularly. I would say for 6 years now. So I've seen a whole bunch of superstars come through not. And what I will say, and it's as simple as this, and I'm not saying he's as good as Foden. But what I will say is that this group of young under 23s has been as impressive and as dominant, and if not more dominant statistically, than the group of young players that had Foden and Diaz and Sancho in it. And it was, I'm not saying they're a better side, but they were just as impressive on that same relative level. Yeah. I'm not saying they're better players, but they were just as absolutely dominant at a young age. So all I can say is basically they've more or less done everything they can do at that age without being maybe Phil Foden. And there's nothing wrong with that, man. Like, just Phil Foden is a special player. But having said that, who knows, man? If Phil Foden didn't exist, who knows that Guardiola wouldn't have been asking Cole Palmer to train with 17. And we forget, because Phil Foden exists, it does actually slightly stop another young player coming through sometimes because we've already got one. So there's always going to be, most managers will take a young player as a project. They will do, because it's almost like they feel almost like a responsibility to do that to the academy sometimes. And Guardiola's had a project, so he's already taken that. But maybe he's not Phil Foden, but you don't have to be Phil Foden to be an absolute quality player right now. And Cole Palmer, to me, is technically gifted. He's got loads and loads of confidence. He's just come off a season where he scored like so many goals. He's won a couple of Player of the Months in the Premier League too. I mean, what more can you actually ask for the lad right now, other than that? And you don't know until once again you give him a chance. Get him on the pitch, get him around world-class players, and world-class talents develop best around world-class players and world-class coaches. And it's always that. And what I will say, if Barcelona, Real Madrid, Liverpool, United, if they said to him right now, do you want Cole Palmer as a young talent for your academy size to develop? Every single one of them in the world would say yes. And that's a fact, I guarantee you, because he's one of our best young players in one of the best teams in the world, in one of the best academy players in the world. So by default, he's a very good young footballer. It's as simple as that. And that's how it is. That's it. It's as simple as that. If he's beating everyone else at his age, he's one of the best of his age. That's the end of the story. And that's it. So I guess we always we expect too much of these young players sometimes. And we forget that not everyone is going to have the same explosive impact. I mean, even Wayne Rooney had a bigger impact than Phil Foden at a younger age. He did. But does that mean Phil Foden is any less talented? No. It just means he took a slightly different path. Wayne Rooney exploded at 17 because he was physically ready, but it doesn't mean he was better as a talent than Phil Foden. It might be that Wayne Rooney the point I'm making is everyone's different. Everyone's different. Anyway, man, we've chatted for an hour and 20 minutes. It's been wonderful, mate. Absolutely wonderful.
Always.
Up the Blues, man, always, because City are fucking good at football. And once again, I can't wait for tomorrow, man. It should be good fun.
Me too.
We're getting closer and closer to the Champions League final. It's barely any time at all away now. It's less than 2 weeks. Is that right? It is less than 2 weeks. It's next weekend.
It's next weekend. Hey, can I say something? Can I say something? We're 9 days from the Champions League final. The football club that we support and the governing body that is organising this nonsense has not released any information about tickets, who can go, how they can get in the country. Sort your necks out, lads.
Get a fucking grip, definitely. It's not fair. It's not fair on the fans. Getting to the point now where it almost would have been a better thing if they just
biggest
said, like,
game in the history of the club.
I mean, like, they've messed it up for everyone. They've messed it up for everyone. And I genuinely would rather you're going to do it properly or don't do it at all. I know that sounds really like dramatic, but you're playing with people's lives here right now. You're playing with people's money. And I guarantee you now, regardless, thousands of fans have lost out on an awful lot of money because not everyone will be able to go now, given what they've just said. So people have already lost out money. This lost out of time as well. And that, to be honest, it's fucking disgraceful. It's absolutely not even necessary. I understand the world's a mess right now, but don't put it out there until you've decided what you're going to do. And then even if it's a week's notice, which is shite, at least people can then make the educated guess or decision to go and do it, and it's on them as individuals then. But right now, you're just messing with people's lives, and it's not fair. That's what I will say, and it really frustrates the hell out of me. But Ahsan, man,
completely agree.
Ahsan, you're a legend, man. Thank you so much for coming on, guys. 9320 podcast.
Thank you.
Check it out
9320. Check it out.
I will always. I'm going to put a link to the Twitter as I always do in the comments. There we go. Go and follow him.
We've got a special interview later this week with Paul Ballas.
Nice. That'll be good.
Which will be a season review and also a little look ahead to the summer transfer window and maybe what Pep's plans tactically might be for next season. So keep an eye on that if you're a member of the 9320 player.
Listen to it, guys. It'll be absolutely wonderful. For now, though, City, they're good at football as always. Life is great. In a bit, guys. See you later.
Up Blues!